Good evening. Welcome to the August 17th Clark County Fire District 6 Board of Fire Commissioners meeting. My name is Chris Pfeiffer. I'm the board chair of the Commissioners of Fire District 6. With me this evening is Commissioner Rocky Haynes, Commissioner Brad Losbeck, Assistant Chief Dave Russell, Assistant Chief Dave Schmidt, and Board Secretary Dave Taylor. With us all as well are Scott Sawyer, Dan Young, and Rob Klug from Clark County Public Works, and they are here to present on the 179th Street development. So with that, I'd like to turn this evening's meeting over to them for their presentation.
Alrighty, well, I'll go ahead and start out. Again, thank you for allowing us to come tonight. Again, my name is Scott Sawyer, and I'm with Clark County Public Works Department in the project management section. As you'll learn tonight, I'm managing a number of the projects along the 179th Street corridor, along with my co-workers. This evening, I have with me tonight Rob Klug, who is our Clark County traffic engineer, and knower all of that information. He's a very brilliant man, so I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to work with him. What I'd like to do first is go ahead and just share my screen, and I thought for this evening, unless you have different plans, I would just kind of take you through the improvements proposed along 179th corridor, starting from Delfelt and working to the east all the way to 50th Avenue. So if that's okay, I'll go ahead and start that. So 1 second, please. Come on. Oh. There we go. Can you see that on your screen okay?
Yep.
Okay. So basically what this is, as you can probably very well figure out, is an overlay of the entire layout of all the projects. Beginning on the left side, what's in red is our Delfelt Road realignment project. And now before I go much further, I want to mention at the top you see Northeast 10th Avenue, or what we refer to as TAC at the office. That project is just finishing up construction. It's opened back up now, and so you're probably familiar with that. So that one is nearing completion. The Delfelt Road realignment is scheduled to complete design and right-of-way acquisition and permitting by 2025, and then begin construction in 2026. And possibly carry into 2027. The next project to the east is the I-5 179th Street interchange reconstruction. This is a project that's being completed by the Washington State Department of Transportation. We've done some initial work with them to get some initial studies done so they could identify the type of intersection they're going, or interchange they're going to have at intersections at 179th and their on and off ramps, so that we can get that nailed down as we work on our adjacent projects. So I'll go more into these projects and share with you some conceptual layouts so you're aware of those. And next to the interchange project in purple is what we call the GAP project. And this is one that's going to complete that section between what's going to be completed by the WSDOT at the interchange and what we're going to be doing at Northeast 15th Avenue. Which I'll get into more in just a little bit. As you can see, for the interchange, they hope to be in construction beginning in 2027. They anticipate completing that up by the end of 2029, possibly into early 2030. The GAP project, which was in purple, as you can see, we're going to wait. At this point, we're planning on waiting until the interchange work is pretty much done, and we get 15th done so that we know for sure what work needs to be completed in the middle of that section. Northeast 15th Avenue, which will extend up and connect into 10th, and we'll talk more about that, along with the section from 15th to 26th, is scheduled to be in construction in 2025, and will likely take about 3 seasons to complete all of that work, and we'll talk about more of that. We've got the intersection of 179th and 29th Avenue, which is likely going to be our first project out of the block, which we're hoping to be under construction in 2024, along with an interim project over at 179th and 50th Avenue on your far right, which is in brown. This is one that we're going to be able to construct at the same time as 29th and be able to construct that one under traffic. So I'm going to jump to the actual projects themselves right now, starting with Delfell Road realignment. Hopefully that you can see that on your screen. It's large enough. Please let me know if you need me to zoom in a little closer. I'll assume then that we're in good shape here. So basically our plan is to realign the north leg of Delfell over to line up with the south leg of Delfell, which currently lines in or connects into 179 at a traffic signal. And we'll be removing the traffic signal and installing a multi-lane roundabout, as you can see here. And then the connection of the old Delfell will be eliminated on the north side to 179th, and we'll have a connection for the gas station Chevron to the north and connect into the new alignment of Delfell. They'll still likely have a right-in, right-out connection point off of 179th, but to get traffic back on will likely require us to bring them up onto the new alignment of Delfell. Let's see, jumping to the interchange. As I mentioned, WSDOT has done some preliminary work, and I'll zoom in a little bit on this one. And based on their preliminary analysis, they've determined that roundabouts, and you can kind of see they're a little bit different than just your regular circular roundabout, more egg-shaped, is their intent for their on and off ramps. And as you can see over on the east side, as a result of that change to the on and off ramp, it will require the elimination of that connection of Northeast 10th Avenue to 179th. The same is with Northeast Union Road, where it connects to 179th. That will also be cul-de-sac and no longer connecting. And we'll talk about how we're going to connect, particularly with Northeast 10th Avenue no longer connecting. It'll connect over at 15th, but we'll talk about that in just a second. If you have any questions, please don't feel you need to wait till the end. Just go ahead and stop me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll just keep on chugging.
Scott, is the WSDOT interchange?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the WSDOT interchange funded at this point? Is it going ahead for sure?
It is. It is at this point. The money has been obligated for the project. They do not get their design money until July of 2023 to officially move forward with the actual design work and into environmental permitting and right-of-way acquisition. So it is been set aside by the legislature, and so as far as we know, it's still a go. We've helped contribute some funds to help get, as I mentioned, through these early reports, so we can get them to identify, what type of intersections they're going to have, and so we also need to know, how, what kind of geometric layout will it be, so we can connect in to Delfell to the west, because we will likely, as you saw on that schedule, we'll likely be nearly complete with Delfell before they'll start their work at the interchange.
So this might be a Rob question. Obviously, the amphitheater and the fair provide a ton of traffic. As far as that roundabout goes, is it going to be easier to control that traffic coming off I-5? It was actually backed up during the fair onto the freeway waiting for the lights. So I would assume that whoever's directing traffic can keep that clear. Is that the goal?
That is the goal. We've talked about whether or not we need to work to have somebody manually controlling some of the non-freeway guided traffic in. What we found was, in all the modeling that we did, we looked at what the event type traffic would have, and both the signals and the roundabouts worked about equally well for the event traffic, given all the other background traffic. I was out there for the fair on a couple of evenings watching the traffic, and the signals weren't. I didn't see the signals being the problem. I saw the queue of cars that were going from Delfell all the way to the actual entrance over by the safety center as being the issue. They weren't able to process the cars in fast enough into the actual fairgrounds parking area, because I assume they're taking money for all the parking that was occurring. That was causing the problem. It was backing up and then manifesting itself through the interchange in Delfell. It was just a line of cars from Delfell to the west. And so, your point is well taken. I understand the concern. the reality we're gonna have to deal with here is that the area is growing and changing.
Well, with 10th Avenue being open now, maybe that'll help relieve some of that pressure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rob, Dan Young, question with, when this goes in, I mean, obviously with our office to the west, it's gonna do us, what is the plan for traffic? You know, fair with, amphitheater and just normal traffic while construction's going on?
So we haven't got to the point that we're working on that level of detail yet. A lot of the conversation we're having right now is making sure that we can understand how to build the projects, what needs to be out there, what the sequence of the projects are with the funding availability. And also, you may have heard about the concept of an access management process to go through and make it so that we're able to get the longest life out of these improvements as possible. As we move forward into the individual design, the deeper in the design, then we start looking at what the opportunities are for construction. Like we've talked about with Delphil, I know we've had a number of conversations where we've asked the design team to go back and say, okay, what if we were to require that they had 2 weeks to build the roundabout? You know, or a very short period of time, or if they did it off of the peak season, so they did it during winter construction, so they could get as much of it built outside of when the typical major events are occurring for the fair and the amphitheater. It's all questions we're asking and starting to poke into in deeper detail. I brought up the idea of a very, very short period of time where they would just be allowed to completely close the road. This is a potential. We're not saying it's going to happen. But years ago, I worked for the city of Spokane. We would build concrete intersections and give the contractor 96 hours to completely close down a major intersection over a long weekend. And they would have to hog out the road and build the concrete with high-early concrete and have it open to traffic by 5 a.m. on Tuesday. And so we're looking at what types of things we can do like that to say, okay, how do we minimize the effect this is going to have on everyone that's out there? And emergency vehicles, school buses, garbage, just regular commuters, event traffic, et cetera. All that's going into the mix to figure out how do we take it and this, I don't want to sound crass, but the question is, do we want to make it painful for a long period of time or really painful for a short period of time?
No, I understand that. It's just, you know, with the public safety complex, because now we have a crew out there for fire and the sheriff.
Yep.
That's more of my concern. But,
Yeah.
you know, like you said, the long weekend, very, very painful, but shorter time, who knows? But yeah, obviously it's not set in concrete yet, but thank you for the answer.
And part of that would be also working with the emergency service providers, because there may be an opportunity to stage at other locations, knowing that this is going to be in a major construction for as short a period as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, or I'll go ahead and continue to the east? Alrighty, not hearing any. Now I'll jump to Northeast 15th Avenue. As you can kind of see this, as I mentioned, with the improvements proposed at the on and off ramps for the interchange, that will result in the need to disconnect the connection of Northeast 10th Avenue to 179th and put in a cul-de-sac. Our plan for this is to put in a multi-lane roundabout at 179th and Northeast 15th Avenue, and then to bring traffic up to the north and over to reconnect back in with 10th Avenue over to the west over here. There's a secondary roundabout proposed to the north. This is one that's as a result of the private development that is anticipated on the north and south side of where 15th will be coming across and reconnecting in with 10th. Also, along 179th, between the interchange and 15th, that was that gap project that we talked about. In the developers agreement, we have They are planning on installing another roundabout. I don't know if you can kind of see it. It's very light there, approximately at Northeast 12th Avenue. At this point, their proposal is to have it, east, west, and then south legs associated with that. There would be no connection to the north. And we don't really know the timing on that. And so depending upon how long it takes for the developer to proceed with the more of the commercial development that's proposed to the south of 179th, we may, as the county, come in and just go ahead and connect those two together with 4 lanes, so that we don't have a pinch point here once the state's done with the interchange and we're done with the 15th. Moving to the east, we have the section that's going to be from 15th up to 26th, and I'm going to jump up to 29th at this point. We don't really have much to share with that section quite yet. We just finished surveying, so we're going to be starting on the design here pretty soon. So then we'll have some conceptual design work to share with you. But the idea is that what you see here is the roundabout that's proposed at 179th and 29th Avenue. It will complete the improvements to Northeast 26th Avenue, and the other project, which is down the hill, will connect into these. As you can see from the roundabout, it's a bit offset from the current intersection. That topography out there, as you probably well know, is pretty crazy. So there's going to be some pretty good cuts and fills associated with this project. The decision was made for the 2 creek crossings we have to install bridges versus culverts. That turned out to be in our alternatives analysis, to be a better alternative to go with, rather than to go with the culverts and then a great deal of fill. So you'll be seeing bridge structures constructed on the west leg and the south leg. And then we'll begin with a single lane roundabout. The actual footprint of this roundabout will be set up for a multi-lane roundabout, but because we don't feel that we're going to have the traffic right away, we're going to go ahead and construct it in such a way that it'll start out as a single lane and then be expandable to a multi-lane in the future when it's warranted. Working over to Northeast 179th and 50th Avenue. This is one where we have an interim project proposed, which will be out to construction in 2024, similar to 29th. For this one, our plan is to add left turn channelization on both the east and west legs remaining in a stop controlled situation. So there will not be a signal, it'll just be a stop controlled intersection on all 4 legs with the addition of left turn lanes. Our traffic engineers have modeled this, and we feel that this will meet the needs of the traffic volumes until about 2035, at which time then we'll need to transition to the ultimate improvement at this intersection, which will be transitioning to a double multi-lane roundabout at this location as well.
I know there's obviously a large development going on right now, north 179th and west of 50th. I don't know how many homes, but yes. A lot. Rob, do you get traffic counts on that? What's anticipated coming out of that subdivision, and will that affect 29th only having 1 lane? Obviously you modeled it, right?
We've modeled it. I don't have the numbers at the tip of my fingers, but what we're looking at is the single lane roundabout is expected to work for quite a few years, and then we're talking about basically removing some capped concrete and some barrier and restriping it so that it can be a multi-lane roundabout.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's not like we're gonna have to go out there and hog it out and build a whole new roundabout. It's meant to be modular, where we can just remove things and put new things down on the existing pavement as much as possible.
Okay.
To
That makes
make
sense.
it so it's a simple change.
That makes sense. They're just moving a lot of dirt out there. Was there 400
Yeah.
houses or something?
650.
650 houses going in there, so.
Yep, there's a lot of homes going in.
And I would assume that while you're doing all this road work, utilities are all gonna run their utilities at the same time, I hope? Like water?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. So we're working closely with Clark Public Utilities, Water and Electric, and Clark Regional Wastewater District Sewer, so that as we do our improvements, we'll be likely, in most of the cases, incorporating their improvements along with our construction documents. So we have the same contractor doing both, all of the work, and then we just be reimbursed by the other agencies.
Excellent.
We find that's the easiest way to go and has less conflict when you have one contractor doing all the work.
That makes sense. Thank you. I was just curious.
You betcha. So what I'd like to do just real quick is kind of run through our construction and detour sequence. This is basically for just east of the interchange for the major work between the interchange and 50th. So as I mentioned, in 2024, we anticipate being out to construction with the work at 179th and 29th. You can kind of see that with the blue circle towards the bottom there. We do anticipate, as a result of the topography and the substantial cut and fill and the construction of the bridge structures in order for, to install those with the stream crossings, that we will need to close the road during this process. So the anticipated detour route then would be to send vehicles up 10th, over 199th, and then down 50th to bring them back to 179th and 50th. As I mentioned, we are doing Northeast 179th and 50th Avenue at the same time. We feel that we can construct the additional asphalt and additional lanes under traffic, so we don't anticipate the need to close down that intersection during that construction work. So this is the 2024 construction season. Point out a few things as you kind of see. I put a line on there for identifying where Fire District 6 is, and as you can see, it's to the east of our road closure, as well as where Clark County Fire and Rescue starts, as well as the two fire districts. So obviously we'll need to have some communication between the two agencies. I guess let's jump to 2025. So this will be the second year of construction work at the intersection of 179th and 29th. Hopefully they will be wrapping it up during the second year, but in the meantime, we'll continue to have that road closure until they get the bridge work and the roundabout constructed. At that same time, the off alignment work on Northeast 15th Avenue, which would connect over to 10th, will begin its first year. And so these two projects will be going simultaneously. The detour will remain at 10th up to 199th and down 50th for this season. 2026 will be complete with our work at 179th and 29th and 179th and 50th. That will all be cleared out. Majority of the work then will be transitioned down to the roundabout at Northeast 15th Avenue, and then doing quite a bit of work just to the east of 15th Avenue, where we're going to be filling a lot of that area, building that up, and then installing a multi-project stormwater facility is our plan. So we'll be closing the road at this location during the 2026 construction season, and the detour route then will shift from 10th to 199th down to 29th. So we'll be able to bring traffic back to 29th Avenue so they can continue then to the east from there. We'll also be working on that section of between, where we'll be closing the road there just east of 15th to 26th. That will also be under construction, but that will be open to traffic during the construction activities. So the only section that will be closed is that green circle here.
There's two large apartment complexes that started right there. Are they required to do some of the road frontage improvements now, or are they going to pay you to do that later, or how do you work that out with them?
And Rob, I don't know if you want to speak to this or if you want me to take a shot at it. I know for example, the apartment complex, we're in the process of working with a deferred improvement agreement. Since we are doing quite a bit of alteration to the vertical alignment here, it made more sense than rather than having them go in and do some temporary improvements that are going to be ripped out. We go ahead and have an agreement that they will submit, they will pay for the improvements in lieu of actually doing them, and then that money will go towards the actual project.
And that payment is what's called
Go ahead.
traffic impact fees. It's similar to school impact fees, and there are other impact fees that occur. What they're doing is they're paying for the equivalent of what their frontage improvements would cost, and there's other calculations that go into it. But instead of being credited for it because they built it, they're paying the fees, and then that payment will go to help pay for the county to build the road.
So Scott, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob, I'm sorry.
We just don't want to have them build something and invest a lot of infrastructure in and then immediately rip it out.
That makes perfect sense. So
Yeah.
if the road's closed just east of 15th, is that gonna stay open, or are we gonna have to go around to get to those apartments?
You will need to go around to get to those apartments.
Okay.
Because of that vertical change there, it's pretty sizable change. So the only way we can construct that is to close the entire road. We won't be able to do like a half at a time.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about a 6 to 8 foot vertical change here. And I'll share with you, as soon as I get to the final season, I'll share with you this map to kind of help you understand, the vertical and the cuts and fills that are going to be required
That's huge, isn't it?
on this facility to get it so that it can be a 50-mile-per-hour road.
Wow.
So this is the 2026 construction season. A lot of the work on Northeast 15th will be pretty close to being wrapped up offline, and then hopefully they'll be knocking out that roundabout at 179th. That part will be under traffic, and so they'll have to figure out a way to do that under traffic so we can keep 15th connection on the south side to 179th moving.
So can I throw something out there? There may be other ways to get around the construction that will be on 179th, but the official detour, we always try to put the official detour on the highest classification roads to make sure that we're taking the detour traffic through the intersections that likely have the most improvements on them.
Okay.
So there may be neighborhood streets that the fire apparatus can get through to get around the so-called, the actual closure for the work. And it would be appropriate for the county and the fire district to work together to see if we can limit the amount of time that the road is completely impassable to emergency vehicles, because we don't want to just leave it so that for a year and a half the contractor can do whatever they want to. We need to look at ways that we can shorten up that time when it would be something that there wouldn't be a drivable surface for emergency services if necessary.
Okay, thank you. And Scott, real quick, I know I've asked a lot of questions. 2026, that's what you have up there. If the state gets design money in 2024, would you anticipate the state starting on the interchange about 26? So you're gonna have to deal with that.
So what they're telling me is they anticipate starting construction in 2027.
Okay,
So what we're trying to do is get all this
Get done
done before they start their construction work.
okay. Yeah, it'll take the state about 4 years to get there, won't it?
Well, they've got a lot of environmental permits and,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. We hope to, we were giving them a kind of a jump start by completing some of the initial reports, but yeah, they're just held up. They can't start until they get that design money, and that's not, the legislature doesn't have that lined up for them until July of 2023.
Wow.
Then they can go hot and heavy and get that done, but it takes time. It really does, especially on something like that. Because I've been curious to see, well, how are you going to do that work? And if we go back, I'll just jump back real quick. Hold on 1 second. Forgive me.
I goofed you
Where
up
did
there.
the other ones go? 1 second, please.
I goofed you up, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I'll gone this thing. Come on. Well, I want to come up.
It's too hot.
Maybe it wants me to fit. Maybe, yeah, it's too hot. Maybe it wants me to, oh, there, okay. So what they explained to me is that the way they'll do this is they will build a temporary bridge here. Then they will divert the northbound traffic onto it, and they'll divert southbound traffic onto the northbound, existing northbound, and then they'll demo. And then they will shift then the southbound onto the new bridge, and then they will build the northbound, and then they'll demo then the one on the east side. In the meantime, then they'll be working with the contractor for the construction of all the on and off ramps at the same time. So a lot goes into that staging and working that out.
I hope they're as good to work with keeping things open as the county is, because the fire station out there will be staffed by then. And we have a lot of calls on I-5 north and southbound. We need that access. So when it gets to that point and the state's talking about that stuff, hopefully you can get them to include us.
Yeah, and I have no doubt, based on the staff that I've been working with, we meet with them monthly. I have no doubt they'll be happy to come and talk to you, work with you. They're good folks, and I have no doubt they'll work things out with you.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Yeah. So let's see. Hold on one quick second, and I'll find that. Nope. There it is. So so this was 2026, and then we've got one more season. At this point, we'll be wrapping up any remaining work at the roundabout at 15th, and then finishing up any of the remaining work on 179th between 15th and 26th. Again, this will all remain under construction. There will be no detours at this point. It will be all open to traffic during the remaining construction activities. At the off-ramp where 10th is, this will be we're anticipating this is when we'll do the actual cutoff of the connection of 10th down to 179th, and the cars and the motorists will be directed over to 15th, then where they'll start using 15th. And then at that point, that's when we anticipate DOT then will start their work on the interchange. As I mentioned before, in order to make this meet our principal arterial standards, we've got to meet a 50-mile-per-hour design speed. With some cases might be where it's really, really steep. We may go down to 45 with different improvements to make that work. But as you can see, what's in green, starting from the interchange, is what we anticipate filling, and then what's in red is where we'll be cutting some of that slope. So as I talked about near the improvements there at just to the east of 15th, there's a pretty considerable amount of fill there to change that horizontal alignment. And so that's why we're probably going to need to close her down for a little bit while the contractor does their work there. There will likely be walls, things of that nature they'll construct and then fill in to get that alignment. Over at 29th, you can kind of see it in red. There's going to be quite a bit of cutting of that hill slope, and then just working our way to the east, getting to 50th, then you can kind of get an idea of how we'll be affecting the vertical alignment of that roadway. So that's basically what I've got to share tonight. Any other questions that we can help you with?
Chris, got a question over
Okay, great. Yeah, Scott, I think we have one question here for you.
On YouTube?
here.
Okay.
YouTube, yes. There's a question, during the fair, in future events such as high school graduations, etc., would state or county law enforcement help direct traffic when construction is in process?
So that's, we're a little ways out to figuring out what our action plan is during construction. And as Rob indicated previously, that is one of the steps that we are going to need to get into, determine what we're talking about is a transportation management plan and developing how we'll be constructing it. As Rob mentioned, one of the things that we're leaning towards, but obviously we haven't got into it yet, is there a way that we can construct this off season? We know that a lot of the traffic for the high school graduations or the fair or at the amphitheater really occur between May and October. And so we've got that time period between October and May that although it's the wettest and coldest part of the season, there are construction techniques that allow you to do certain things during that time period. You know, you can't really pave, but you can pour concrete, things of that nature. So if we can get, you know, certain things done during the off season, that will allow us then to be able to maintain that flow of traffic during, you know, during that peak season between May and October. That's going to be our goal and our plan. If we do need to have traffic control, I know for example, for amphitheater, they're required to provide some of that traffic control. We'll work with them during that construction to make sure that's being overseen. But we'll also require, the contractor to provide traffic control during certain parts of the time too, to keep that moving. And then we'll be monitoring that progress. If we see a problem, we're going to step in immediately and resolve that.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Any other questions or?
A lot of information.
That was it.
Any other
I
questions?
think we're good. Just thank you.
I think we're good at this time, Scott. I'd like to thank you all for your informative presentation this evening.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So before you go, Scott, do you want to provide your contact information in case people want to
Yeah.
talk?
Yeah, Scott.
Absolutely.
Dave Schmidt,
Yeah,
Dave Schmidt has that, Scott.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Schmidt, yes, that's
And
great.
same with my contact information. People have concerns about the signs, markings, et cetera, signal operations. Please get in contact with me.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a
Have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's a lot of work.
A lot going on 179th Street. A lot of changes.
Avoid 179.
Yeah, I'm gonna be working at that station to get some traffic.
No, there's one. We don't want to see ourselves.
Get the camera on.
Lots of apartments taking place out there as well, so
Huge.
that's only gonna,
Well, they started on one. I think Chief Schmidt said the other one just got approved, so 200 and
call
something.
generators.
Who said 15 minutes?
All right. Moving on. Okay, great. Well, we'll continue on with this evening's meeting. At this time, I'd ask for any additions to the agenda.
Not here.
Not here? Okay. I did see a grievance in our packet. I don't see it listed on this evening's agenda, so I'd add that to our new business
I think it should.
piece.
It's under new business, I believe.
It's just, it's not on this
I
paper,
don't see it on
but
this
it's on,
paper.
it is on the one we had in our
Okay,
packet,
so-
Perfect. All right. Well, as long as it's noted in our iPad, we'll.
along with the wellness service, contract wellness
Okay,
service.
perfect, perfect. Thank you. Correspondence, actually, let's move forward here with reading and approving our minutes of our August 2nd board meeting. We'll post those as necessary.
Move for approval and post as necessary.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Correspondence, I didn't see any in this evening's packet.
No.
Okay.
Oh,
Citizen communication. Citizens viewing this evening's meeting have the opportunity to communicate directly with the board using the chat feature of YouTube. That will be monitored throughout this evening's meeting, and the board will be happy to take any of those questions. Moving on to committee reports. I see no reports listed. So we will move on to the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Chief's report. Chief, if you'd like to just move through that this evening?
Yeah, so we have the 2022 July overtime summary report. It should be in your packet. I think you guys have a breakdown there. I'm not sure if we go through that individually or.
We don't, the chief put a little bit in her memo to us about it.
Yep.
241,000 isn't sustainable, and it sounds like it'll hopefully be dropping soon, so.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I see
saw
the
that.
majority of that's been shift replacement, called in overtime. That's largely been COVID,
Mhm.
covering COVID leave, and then also the last month of our academy. So the academy was big
Expenditure,
overtime impact,
yeah.
yeah.
And some
Hey.
babies in there somewhere.
And a lot of babies,
Couple
and a
months
handful of
summer.
injuries as well. Yeah.
Summer months. so-
Definitely a baby boom. Your 2022 budget performance report. For 6212 general fund fire suppression, the anticipated expenditures should be right around 58.8%. We have expended 45.2%. For the EMS side, 6242, the anticipated expenditures should be 58.8, and we've expended 47.6, so tracking well there. Facilities update. If there was one in your guys' report.
It was supposed to be number 7 that I never
I didn't
got.
see
I don't think I saw it.
We didn't
I
get
don't think
one.
anything's changed there. I think we're just still in the holding pattern with the county. And that is the end of the chief's report.
I didn't see anything listed under old business this evening.
Nope.
Moving on to new business. We had the county presentation on 179th Street. So I'm looking here at my agenda. Well, we do have a grievance listed here under.
We've got Lucas device proposal.
Yeah, Lucas device
Okay.
proposals
Yeah, let's
next.
take that. Perfect.
Okay, with the passage of the EMS levy, we'd like to purchase Lucas devices for all of our first out response units. Although we will not collect the levy funds immediately, we have the funds for the purchase. This would be a great opportunity to report to the public that we are increasing EMS capabilities with the passage of the levy. Opportunity of good timing. The total purchase is $87,000. On October 1st, they expect a significant price increase for the equipment, so we'd like to get in there before that increase goes into effect. The crews really can't say enough about it. They really liked the demo we had using it. It really kind of feels like it's heading towards being the standard of care, so it just frees up hands and lessens interruptions and compressions and that sort of thing. So we'd like the board to consider that.
Question on, just a couple of questions on that. So obviously it's a pretty hefty price tag. I think for me, and one of the things we can talk to the fire chief about, when we have requests like at almost 90,000, it would be nice to get, like maybe last meeting, hey, tell us, next meeting I'm gonna ask you to consider a $90,000 request. So just so, I guess for me personally, so I have a chance to kind of digest it, come up with questions that I might want to ask, because I support it, but to get this just a couple days ago and go, oh, we're going to spend this much money on it, because I have questions about how many did we demo, what did the crews think about it, do we have any code saves, do we what's our plan for, I guess, and you can probably tell me, like, what units are they going on? Does AMR carry them?
Yeah.
What are there redundancy in this? Like, what do we?
There is a little bit of redundancy. I think every AMR ambulance now carries it. We have a proposal from EMS Captain Simica for each first out. And really what it does is gives us the opportunity to get it on immediately as opposed to waiting. Yeah. I think both, there's definitely multiple ways to do it, and I don't know what your guys' experiences are with those units, but they can be put on after the fact. It is, it frees up the scene, it makes the scene more organized if you can get the thing on earlier than later. Otherwise, I think later you just have to wait for that move to transport. Otherwise, you're gonna have a somewhat considerable pause in compression time.
Mm-hmm.
So by having one of the first outs, it allows us to do that. That would be our EMS side of the house's recommendation. Regarding thought time and presentation, I can definitely pass that message to the chief and get you guys a little bit more leeway and time consideration. If you want to take some time, I think we have till October in order to get these under that current price tag.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there a yearly service associated with these things as well, or do you know? I know
There
you're
is
probably not the content expert, but
there's a warranty plan that Chief Mauer's been involved in looking at. I think that covers a certain amount of service, but I think we may once
some of that.
once that service time ends, we may buy the extended warranty just because they're.
Yeah.
There's one manufacturer.
Right.
They're a very specific piece of equipment, so that's something that we can deal with in-house.
Do we know, like, what's the shelf life on these things? Are they?
That's a good question. I'd have to ask Eric. In my previous experience, we got probably 10 years
Okay.
or so of service out of them.
Okay.
They're not used terribly often, especially if you have one on every rig, but
Mhm.
they will break down.
Right, okay.
And the technology typically improves as well.
Right.
So this version is better than the version I have experience with.
Okay.
At the top it says the quote date was 7/7.
Yeah.
And the expiration date is 11/01, but then down below it says, no, it says the same thing, we just have to pay within 30 days.
Okay, so
So I'm pretty comfortable with it. If the board wants to wait, we can wait.
I'm comfortable with it. I just, and I can talk to the chief. I'd like a little more heads up on big ticket items.
Absolutely.
So with that, I'll make a motion that we go forward and purchase the 5 Lucas CPR devices along with the accessories for $87,209.76 estimate.
I'll second that.
moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty, thank you. Do you want to just move through the new business then you have on your agenda?
Sure.
It might be a
Yeah.
little bit off here. So.
Sorry about that. Next on the new business line items is the budget resolution.
Okay.
So you have a memorandum in your inbox from the fire chief discussing the budget and just some line items that we need to make some budgetary moves in. And Secretary Taylor can jump in here if I get off a little bit here, but I think she kind of outlines the needed changes the budget can support. The biggest one, the most significant change is the overtime budget. We used last year's overtime budget in calculating this year's overtime budget. We didn't have a huge impact of COVID last year. Everybody was in masks. We had very little COVID in-house. This year we've had a whole lot of people go down with COVID for a minimum of 10 days. That's been a big impact budgetarily. I think we had moved some money in preparation for our academy, but I don't think we fully realized all the trickle-down impacts of utilizing shift people to cover academy training and that sort of thing. So some money is there covering that. I think those are two of the big impacts, and then also obviously the FMLA. A whole lot of babies were born this summer, as well as some unexpected injuries that have had people in and out. So a lot of overtime, so we needed to move some
And
money
fuel.
in order to make that done. Yeah, fuel is on the, you can
see
see
the
the
fuel there.
discussion line items there, yeah. So
Yeah.
overtime being the big one. Industrial insurance, that
Yep.
goes along with time worked. Operating supplies is, largely that CPI changes we've been seeing, the gas prices and diesel prices, yeah.
Chief, are the quarantine requirements being adjusted as it relates to COVID?
Yeah, we've
currently,
gone
or,
with
you know?
pretty strictly by the CDC rules, with
Yeah.
being a 5-day minimum, with the proper negative testing. We haven't been in a staffing emergency, so we're not bringing back people that are testing positive and putting them in masks. We do need a negative test after 5 days. This current strain seems to be keeping people at least 10, so we've been
Okay.
utilizing that. We are, I've approached the state. Nobody's been asking for what we've been asking for, but nobody's yet found a way through the federal grant process of being reimbursed under the current FEMA grant guidelines for overtime
Related to it.
incurred. Yeah, talking to the state who submits our federal funding, they're interested in trying to work out some ways to look at that, and so I'm going to be sending them information on what our past 12 months. So there is some very slight potential that we might see some of that reimbursed.
Thank you.
What, so building the budget, obviously we built the budget off of last year's overtime, and this is a pretty hefty ask. I mean, we're almost doubling the overtime budget. And so again, I would echo my comments from previous. If this might have been a good one to know it was coming, to contemplate some questions. So what do we anticipate building the budget for next year for overtime? Because, I mean, are we gonna build it around 1.5? Are we gonna build it around 1.2? I guess probably a question for what do we, I guess, how do we get to the 866 and how do we get to
To
1.5? And
Yeah.
kind of,
Well,
Where do we go from there?
right, what do we do next year?
yeah,
And is it sustainable, I guess?
well, I was gonna say.
Too many questions.
I can't imagine we're gonna have another year like we had this year.
Yeah.
Certainly, we're gonna have to budget more funds next year than we normally would have, but I don't think at this level.
Okay.
We're not gonna have the COVID impact, we're not gonna have the Sim Academy impact, we're not gonna have well, we may have more
We
babies.
can only have so many babies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
There are 5 things, this perfect storm of things that contributed to this massive increase.
And we have 9 more people online, which will help somewhat.
yeah.
Nice, okay.
On the academy stuff, so are there, obviously we had a budget for the academy, and it sounds like we actually saved money by doing it in-house as opposed to going, sending them, so I think that's good. Did we move some of that money, some of the savings, if you will, over to the overtime budget already?
No,
So-
Okay.
no, there's little movement per se that you can do within the budget.
Okay.
What you can do is if you see a savings in one area of the budget, you can adopt a new budget showing those savings and then having that money reallocated over to this, but it requires doing
Resolution.
What we're doing right here,
Adopt it,
then.
yeah.
Okay, revision like we're seeing.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's,
And is this, we gotta do it at this meeting?
I don't know that it has to be done this meeting. The problem we're up against is we're going to go over in some categories.
Okay.
yeah.
And that's why it's preferable to do it now, but.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, I mean, so I'm comfortable with this, but if we're sitting here next year at this time and have a similar request, I'll probably not be super awesome with that. So, yeah, so, okay.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution 2022-06.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next on the new business line is the grievance we have before the board.
Okay.
Could we skip that and go to contract for wellness and then grievance would be the last thing?
Yeah.
There's nobody here right now, but
You bet.
Sounds great.
The contract for wellness services, the district provides annual wellness check. We do that every fall. There's your standard physical that we send folks into. For sworn personnel, this is mandatory under the CBA. With the growing trend in fire service regarding suicide, PTSD, and mental injuries, Chief would like to add behavioral wellness check to the annual physical. We've been working with Tim Dietz. I think you guys are familiar with Tim's work.
Right.
And we've contacted him for working together. He's done this with other organizations where during their kind of fall fitness exams, there would be a wellness check-in. So he meets with each employee via Zoom for a half an hour and just gives them, it's just a mental health check-in. How you doing? Are you stressed out? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating right? Are you taking care of your body and meat between your ears? And make sure they're good. I think it's a great opportunity for folks to just kind of have that check, like, hey, am I doing the right things? And then also get those reminders on resiliency, on things, proper behaviors, how to really take care of yourself mentally as you progress through your career.
Right.
So,
so is this a negotiable item? Is this a change in working conditions? Is this, do we have to negotiate this? Do they have to?
We've discussed it at labor management. I think I don't think they're gonna want to go, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they're gonna demand a bargain over it.
Is this a result of negotiations or an enhanced benefit?
This is just,
It
this
is
is straight from
okay,
the mind
all
of
right.
fire chief.
Gotcha.
This is from the fire chief's
Yeah.
administration.
Yeah.
So it's an enhanced benefit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess along with his questioning, is it one of those things where if Tim says, hey, this person is like not in a good place, does that result in fit for duty stuff or?
Negative. We
Okay,
won't have
alright.
any
We don't
idea
get a
whatsoever.
report.
The employee would just be referred to someone to help them in that
Okay.
situation. Yeah, for us, it's literally I met with this person,
Okay,
here's a
perfect.
$60 bill.
That helps with the issues he's bringing up. Okay. Perfect.
But then does everybody have to do it? That's my other question.
Yeah. that's
Mandatory,
what I
not
said.
punitive.
Mandatory, not punitive, right?
Yeah.
Does this extend to all staff? This
I think it's just response personnel is what she has in here,
Maybe
which
some
would be
of the commissioners.
$4,200 a year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, can Chris go?
Yeah. Chiefs and board would also.
I just, yeah. No,
Maybe we can
I-
get Tim to throw that in.
Right.
Yeah, okay,
Ha.
perfect. Well, with that, I'd make a motion that we approve the behavioral health, health check-in agreement as it's outlined in our board packet.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Last, leaves the grievance.
Last up is the grievance outlined in the packet. Okay, with that, I'd ask that we move to executive session in accordance with RCW 42.30.140 parentheses 4 parentheses A. We'll give 15 minutes for that. So, thank you. The board met in executive session. At that time, we took no action.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we change the verbal reprimand to a coaching and counseling with a couple caveats. Want to make sure that people understand that members own their schedule. They own the fact that they've got to check that. And the reason I feel comfortable with making this recommendation is we had all parties involved. We're assuming goodwill and trying to do the right thing. And so, a couple of mistakes were made, and I just feel like we should be consistent with the level of discipline. And I don't want this to set precedent or somehow shift responsibility. I just think it's a cleaner if we coach and counsel all three members involved.
And she'll be marked as tardy.
And she'll be marked as tardy.
Okay, fair enough. I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
That's the end of new business.
That is the end of new business. Yeah, moving on. Roundtable good of the order.
Happy to see that they're gonna start doing an annual thing in Felina calling the Stroll in
Stroll?
Felina.
Yeah.
And all the businesses along 36 are participating. You stop in and get a cookie or get something and you kind of go to the next business. And Station 2 is participating in that. They have a
Right.
table set up and
Yeah.
they're handing out goodie bags of water as people come by, and they're estimating 200-300 people on this stroll. And I think it's a nice way to,
Yeah,
once
it's
again, say thank you for your support. And, once we get the Lucas devices, I think it's important that we let the public know that with their support, we're increasing our level of service.
Mm-hmm.
And then once again, it's just unheard of to get almost 79% yes. And I think that goes back to staff and all of our personnel. Every day they respond and touch somebody's lives, it makes a difference.
Yeah, positive impact.
And I think that's part of our culture, and people throughout the state of Washington were blown away with the way the economy was and everything else, and most of the ones in the state were between 50 and 60, and so it goes to show we got the information out, we're doing a good job. It's kind of like a report card to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everybody's efforts. I think most of the signs are picked up.
think so.
I saw a couple alongside the road by the trail I gotta grab, but a big thank you to everybody. I think it was a huge show of support, and I think we all appreciate everybody's efforts. It's unbelievable amount of support.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, the support from the community is a direct reflection on the organization, the men and women that work here, whether it's line staff or support staff or administration. I mean, the place is running smoothly, and the citizens appreciate the response, the quality they get. When they call 911, they're getting people there that care about them and take care of them, and it's very exciting to see that level.
Very well said. Thank you. Let's see. With that, we'll need to authorize August issuance of payroll warrants, authorize August payroll direct deposits, authorize August deposit of federal and FICA medical withholding, authorize pre-authorization invoice transmittal, authorize payment of current bills.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.